a young woman with big dreams, a bright future, and a life full of promise. Yet within years, she would vanish, leaving behind only questions and heartbreak. This is the story of Jennifer Harris. Jennifer Harris was born on October 26, 1973, in Bonham, Texas, to Jerry and Alicia Harris. Loved ones remembered her as intelligent, ambitious, and full of life, qualities that shaped both her studies and her relationships. In school, she balanced spirit and service, cheerleading alongside student council, signaling energy, discipline, and a willingness to lead. She graduated from Bonham High School in 1992, then pursued a scientific path, earning a bachelor's degree in aquatic biology. Building on that foundation, she completed a master's in kinesiology, wellness, and nutrition at Stephen F. Austin State University, aligning academic work with a broader interest in health. Away from classrooms and labs, Jennifer's routines reflected a thoughtful independence. She spent time outdoors, hiking wooded trails and practicing yoga and Pilates, pursuits that matched her calm focus. She also held a sustained fascination with Native American culture and described her personal faith as a universalist deist, a perspective that emphasized reflection, curiosity, and respect. Friends and family saw a young woman steadily defining her future, grounded in community, oriented to learning, and eager to apply knowledge to meaningful work. Before headlines and investigations, Jennifer Harris stood out for commitment and momentum, a life that promised much, but ended in mystery. In 1996, at the age of 23, Jennifer Harris married Rob Holman, her high school sweetheart from Bonham, Texas. Their relationship stretched back to teenage years, when both were active in school life, Jennifer as a cheerleader and student council member, and Rob immersed in the comfort of small-town routines. For many in their community, their marriage symbolized the natural continuation of a familiar bond, the steady path of two young adults raised in the same environment. Jennifer, however, carried ambitions that extended beyond Bonham. After completing her bachelor's degree in aquatic biology and later her master's in kinesiology, wellness, and nutrition, she sought opportunities to apply her education in broader ways. Dallas offered a chance to pursue specialized training in massage therapy, aligning with her interest in health and wellness. Rob, on the other hand, preferred the security of remaining close to family and the quiet predictability of rural life. Their diverging goals soon created visible strain. Jennifer remained in Dallas to focus on her career development, while Rob returned to Bonham, uneasy with the pace and demands of the city. The separation was not just physical, but also philosophical, reflecting their different views of what a successful future should look like. By 2002, the marriage had become unstable. Jennifer's sister later observed that Jennifer was evolving and moving forward, while Rob seemed anchored in place. Those contrasting paths deepened the fractures that had already begun to shape their lives. While continuing her studies in Dallas, Jennifer Harris met James Hamilton, a man whose personal life was already complicated. James was in a relationship with another woman and was a father, with one child already born and another on the way. Despite these commitments, he and Jennifer became romantically involved, and their connection quickly expanded into a business partnership. Together, they opened a massage therapy and wellness center, blending her formal training and ambitions with his willingness to support the venture. At first, the partnership carried promise, giving Jennifer an outlet to apply her education and energy. Yet financial pressures soon overwhelmed the practice. Mounting debts pushed the business toward bankruptcy, intensifying the strain between them. Their personal relationship reflected the same instability, passionate but marked by conflict and uncertainty. James reportedly hoped to marry Jennifer, but she doubted the long-term viability of their bond, viewing it as too rocky to sustain. As the relationship unraveled, Jennifer ended things with James. The closure of their business added another layer of stress, leaving behind unresolved tensions. Around this time, Rob Holman, Jennifer's estranged husband, had begun a new relationship with another woman, but he did not sever ties with Jennifer. Instead, Rob attempted to balance both connections, complicating her circumstances further. During this period, Jennifer confided to a friend that she believed she was pregnant. That revelation, left unverified but deeply significant, would later shadow the investigation into her disappearance and death. On the evening of May 12, 2002, Jennifer Harris spent several hours with her friend Christy Farr at her home in Bonham, Texas. Rain and storms kept them indoors, talking and enjoying each other's company. As the evening grew late, Jennifer decided to leave just before 8 p.m. She did not say where she was going, though one account later suggested she mentioned meeting someone. Christy would be the last confirmed person to see her alive. That same night, a neighbor walking a dog along County Road 2610 near Lake Bonham noticed a green Jeep parked off the roadside. The sight appeared odd but harmless, and the neighbor dismissed it as insignificant. The following evening, during another walk along the same route, the neighbor saw the vehicle still sitting in the same spot. Concerned by its unusual presence, the neighbor contacted the police. Authorities traced the license plate and confirmed the Jeep was registered to Jennifer Harris. This discovery immediately triggered concern, as no one had heard from her since leaving Christie's home. The Jeep's location on a lonely, rain-swept road only deepened the sense of unease. With no clear destination, no known witnesses, and an abandoned vehicle standing as the only clue, the mystery of Jennifer's disappearance began to unfold. What had started as an ordinary Sunday evening ended with Jennifer vanishing just miles from home, leaving behind questions that would haunt both her family and investigators for decades. 6 days after Jennifer Harris was last seen, the search came to a devastating end. On May 18, 2002, fishermen working along the Red River discovered the decomposed remains of a woman. Authorities quickly confirmed the body was Jennifer's. She was unclothed, and the medical examiner determined that her cause of death was homicidal violence, specifically strangulation. Investigators observed disturbing details. Some of Jennifer's body parts were missing, while experts explained that much of the damage was consistent with turtle activity in the river. One finding stood out: her uterus was absent. This absence prevented medical examiners from verifying claims that she might have been pregnant, leaving behind yet another unanswered question in a case already filled with uncertainty. The location of her recovery added to the mystery. Only 200 yards away from the stretch of riverbank where Jennifer's body surfaced, a caretaker's cottage had been deliberately burned down on the same night she disappeared. Investigators believed this fire was no coincidence. They theorized the structure may have been the site of her murder, with a blaze set to destroy crucial evidence and obscure the killer's tracks. The grim discovery transformed Jennifer's disappearance into a confirmed homicide. The recovery of her body, coupled with a suspicious fire nearby, forced investigators to confront the brutal reality. Jennifer Harris had not simply vanished, she had been silenced by violence, and her killer had attempted to erase the truth. Once Jennifer's death was confirmed as a homicide, investigators turned their attention to the two men most closely tied to her: her estranged husband Rob Holman and former partner James Hamilton. Both had complicated histories with Jennifer, and both were questioned extensively. Rob Holman told investigators that the last time he saw Jennifer was a month earlier at a drive-in theater in Bonham. He claimed she displayed no signs of pregnancy and denied meeting her on the night she vanished. Initially, Rob agreed to take a polygraph examination. However, as the date approached, he abruptly withdrew, leaving investigators frustrated and fueling suspicion about his role. James Hamilton, by contrast, complied with law enforcement's request. He submitted to a polygraph test and successfully passed. Despite his cooperation, doubts remained. His past involvement with Jennifer, both personally and professionally, had been volatile. Their business had collapsed, their relationship had dissolved, and questions lingered about whether tension between them might have escalated further. Although investigators pressed both men for more information, neither was ever charged. The conflicting outcomes of the polygraphs created uncertainty. Rob's withdrawal cast a shadow over his credibility, while James's passing grade was not considered definitive proof of innocence. The lack of concrete evidence meant the case continued to hover in uncertainty, with the spotlight still fixed on those who had been closest to Jennifer. Amid the uncertainty, Investigators received a statement from a woman named Deborah Lambert. She reported that on the night of May 12, 2002, the very evening Jennifer disappeared, she had seen a striking scene on the banks of the Red River. Deborah described noticing a woman with reddish-brown hair being restrained by two men, each gripping her by the elbows. The woman appeared frightened and was struggling to break free. Deborah recalled that their eyes met briefly, and she was struck by the unmistakable look of terror on the woman's face. Despite the disturbing encounter, Deborah admitted she did not contact police at the time. She later explained that she feared becoming involved in something dangerous, a hesitation that would haunt the investigation. When she eventually came forward, investigators showed her a photographic lineup. In that process, Deborah identified Rob Holman, Jennifer's estranged husband, as one of the men she believed she had seen that night. The identification added a dramatic layer to the inquiry. Yet, without additional witnesses or corroborating evidence, the lead could not advance. Rob, on the advice of his attorney, refused to answer further questions, shutting down any possibility of clarification. For detectives, Deborah's account was troubling but inconclusive. It provided a glimpse of what might have occurred, yet in the absence of physical evidence, it became another unresolved thread in Jennifer Harris's case. In the aftermath of his daughter's death, Jerry Harris dedicated his life to finding answers. A Marine and Vietnam veteran, Jerry carried the discipline and determination of his service into his pursuit of justice for Jennifer. He often told reporters that he slept only 3 or 4 hours each night, spending the remaining hours behind the wheel of his truck, driving the back roads of Fannin County. He searched fields, scanned riverbanks, and even followed the flight of buzzards, hoping they might lead him to overlooked evidence. Jerry's devotion was unwavering. For him, Jennifer was not just a victim in an unsolved case. She was his daughter, and he would not let her memory fade into silence. Over the years, he pressed investigators for updates, questioned leads himself, and turned to private investigators when official inquiries stalled. His persistence drew media attention, eventually leading to Jennifer's case being featured on CBS's 48 Hours in 2018. The national spotlight renewed public interest, but concrete progress remained elusive. Those who knew Jerry described his pursuit as both inspiring and heartbreaking. His determination symbolized a father's love, but the weight of unanswered questions took a heavy toll. Each year that passed without resolution deepened his sense of loss. Despite his tireless search, the case remained mired in uncertainty. Jerry's mission to uncover the truth became the defining focus of his later life, a personal crusade that reflected both his resilience and his pain. In June 2024, tragedy struck again when Jennifer's father, Jerry Harris, ended his own life outside the Fannin County Sheriff's Office. At 76 years old, Jerry sat in the parking lot and shot himself, leaving behind a letter that stated his decision was not directly tied to Jennifer's murder. Yet for those who knew him, the sorrow that had weighed on him for more than 2 decades was impossible to ignore. Friends and investigators described a man consumed by grief. Private investigator Jim Holloway, who had worked closely with Jerry, explained that sadness and exhaustion had overwhelmed him. Holloway said Jerry was bewildered, eaten up with sorrow, a reflection of how much the unsolved case had taken from him. Jerry's death reignited attention on Jennifer's murder. Local leaders acknowledged the renewed urgency, particularly as new officials entered office. Sheriff-elect Cody Shook promised that all cold cases in Fannin County would be reviewed with modern forensic technology. His statement offered a glimmer of hope that advancements in DNA and investigative methods could uncover leads that were previously out of reach. The community, shaken by the loss of a man who had embodied persistence, recognized the importance of carrying on his mission. While Jerry Harris's death marked a heartbreaking end to his personal search, it also underscored the need to pursue justice for Jennifer with renewed determination. His legacy became a catalyst, pushing investigators to revisit evidence that had long been dormant. More than 20 years after Jennifer Harris's death, her case remains unsolved. Despite media coverage and investigative efforts, no charges have ever been brought, and the evidence available has not been sufficient to identify her killer. Authorities have admitted that while suspicions exist, the lack of conclusive proof has left the case in limbo. Jennifer's story has continued to resonate both locally and nationally. In 2018, CBS's 48 Hours featured the case, bringing wider attention to the unanswered questions surrounding her murder. The program highlighted not only the mystery of her final night, but also the resilience of her family, especially her father, Jerry Harris. His tireless pursuit of answers became a defining element of the case and a symbol of a parent's unrelenting devotion. Jennifer's life, remembered for her intelligence, ambition, and warmth, remains central to the community that knew her best. Friends and family often describe her as a vibrant presence whose potential was never fully realized. In Bonham, her name continues to evoke both grief and determination as people call for accountability and justice that has so far remained elusive. The enduring mystery of Jennifer Harris serves as a reminder of the limitations of past investigations and the emotional toll of unresolved crimes. Her legacy is one of love, loss, and the urgent need for closure that, even decades later, has not been granted.